Yeah, fun fact. The first bot broke once, and since then I'm using two bots in case one breaks.
Hello, 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 and welcome to DevHeads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on of game development, with host experience ranging from indie, double to AAA. But we're missing our AAA representative today. Tina sadly could not be with us, kind of like me last week, but she will have a lovely little message for us later on regarding our little improv pitch meeting. But you still have me and my wonderful co-host Mikee.
Hello. Forgive me, I'm fighting
who is currently
corporate
fighting
goons.
people. And we have a guest that we have both been extremely excited to come on, which is Mr. Wilson Chung. Hello, Wilson.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
So, Wilson, for our audience, could you give us just a brief description of who you are, what you're about, what you've worked on?
Yeah, so I guess, okay, brief introduction. So yeah, for me, I'm the lead developer of Trepang2, this game you can see Mikee is playing right here. So I guess, being an indie developer, I did a whole bunch of stuff I was in charge of like programming, production. I did most of the VFX, sound design, and a little bit of everything else. And then like it was just me and three other dudes, two Brandons and Jacob, just my friends working on this crazy game, and here we are. It's kind of surreal, hard to believe.
That is the thing there, which is why we've got this specific title for this episode, because I was blown away when I found out that so correct me if I'm wrong, 3 people.
Or three of my friends. I'm a person too.
Work on this game, which is well, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I'm in awe that you guys could produce something of such quality, and I mean that in the nicest way. I'm not trying to say, how could just 4 people make something like this. I'm blown away by the quality of every single aspect of the game. I've been playing it a lot recently, and there's not a single part of it that doesn't feel polished and correct, and it's really blown me away. Like, what does that process look like for such a small team? Like, are you all tackling like multiple different aspects of the development?
Yeah, so I guess before we take credit for everything, I still got to mention that we did have contractors who did small roles, like here. For example, I think we had like 20 something voice actors, because like obviously, like as a programmer, I'm not gonna voice act, or animator, or music guy, I'm gonna do voice acting. We had a few like contract artists here and there on short contracts, and then of course we also had a publisher who did all the business stuff and the funding side of things. So I guess it wasn't just 4 people. But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely nuts. Like, it's really like surreal even to talk about. Like, and like I had like imposter syndrome like every day working on this thing. I think we all did. We were like crunching like mad in the last like year or so just to get this thing out. But I guess like, I mean. I guess one thing we did learn from the crunch we did, like the times we did crunch, is that as a small team, like we can work like 80-hour weeks or whatever, but even then we're only working maybe 2 times as much as a normal person, and like that's just not enough, right? So I guess like the moral of the story is like that we learned is just like as an indie developer, you can't just choose to die on every hill. Like you have to compromise some things.
Oh yes.
And I think the mistake that a lot of indie developers do when they first get started is like they're gonna make like the most detailed, most realistic simulation of like life, and they're just gonna have like realistic ballistic physics. They're gonna have like a realistic like hunger system where your body digests food, and like there's going to be a day-night cycle, and the planet is going to like rotate, and there's going to be like procedurally generated like everything.
Because I think it can happen no matter your size, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I guess if you're like Star Citizen or something, you have the money to do that. But if you're 4 people, like you have to just really just figure out like what is really important for this game. And I think the things that we really focused on, just like big explosions and like lots of gore and blood and stuff everywhere, like that stuff isn't like crazy expensive to do. And I guess like we were never like, I mean, in the beginning we kind of had this mistake where we're just like, it has to be this way, like I want it to be this way because that's going to be awesome. But later on we realized like maybe this is really, really difficult or really expensive to do. Here's a cheaper and easier alternative that's just as effective. So
that's for me it's going to be one of the reasons why I think you've been so successful, is being able to objectively look at those costs, not just as in monetarily, but also like development time, effort, like how much crunch is this thing going to take, and being able to look at the fundamentals of the game and think what is needed for us to achieve the correct game feel for this game. And when I was playing, I was saying this to Mikee just before you came on, my entire thought process while I've been playing, it feels like to me that at the top of your priority list has just been fun, like making combat and the gunplay enjoyable to do, and like you said, not realistically simulating exactly how every single bullet would land and and all of that, but just focusing on making something that feels good and is enjoyable to express through gameplay. Was that a huge focus? Am I wrong?
No, you're definitely correct. Like, I think a lot of the meetings we had, like, we're like, we're just brainstorming like the complete, like, ridiculous, like, batshit crazy ideas. Like, we're like, oh, there's gonna be like a guy uploading his brain, and then like a helicopter like flies in, and it also is like carrying a brain that he's uploading, or there's something ridiculous. Yeah, no, there's like 6 brains in play in that level. I mean, self-restraint is something that. Yeah, the cultists and they don't even have brains. But sorry, what were we talking about again? So like I guess the reasoning behind everything is like we usually start out with something that might sound kind of like grounded, and then we just keep going crazier and crazier, but also crazier in a way that would be doable. And sometimes the way we do things, it sounds crazy, but it's actually a lot easier to develop. For example, like we rely a lot on vehicles. And so you'd imagine like a helicopter flying through the sky, or like a submarine like popping up and launching missiles.
Like these.
That sounds like, like these. Yeah, like that sounds like that could be really complicated, right? But I think the thing is, like, people generally start to think, or tend to think like games like they're movies. Like, so if you're making like an indie film, like just recording 2 people sitting on a bench talking is not going to cost a lot. But in an indie game, if you want something subtle like that also looks realistic, you can't really cheap out on that, right? Like, you need like realistic looking eyeballs, and like, because if you want to make something subtle, but you screw something really tiny up, like, people are going to notice. But for example, the helicopters we have there, like, they don't obey the laws of physics at all. But they're just a giant flying piece of metal in the sky, and people aren't going to notice, and they enjoy it when it blows up. So, that's a good way of just like keeping things within an indie budget, but it still looks cool, right? So
100%.
And there's not a necessity for that at the same time, right? Like, I imagine a big part of the scale of your development that you do is, I mean, just like you're saying, just determine what we need to do to get the effect that we want. Right. We don't have the privilege of trying to, like, quote unquote realistically or simulationly doing all these things. We just need to make it look good. And you had this strong core vision guiding you all the way, which was like, well, the combat's got to be fun and violent. Everything's got to contribute to that. And look, a lot of this stuff is actually less expensive than we think.
And that's my favorite thing about game dev in general. It's what my next episode of Design Delve is about, which is just the kind of idea of games in themselves are magic tricks. They're illusions. We are not simulating everything. We are not doing a 1-for-1 translation. We are using smoke and mirrors to give you the impression of what we want to show you. And that stuff is what got me into game dev. Learning about those little secrets and how we pull the wool over our players' eyes. I just find that fascinating. Do you have any examples of, like, I know you spoke about the helicopters, like we can see in the gameplay. Oh, for anyone who is watching and not for our listeners, we are trying something new, and Mikey is currently playing the game live.
He's currently dying, Jay.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Like, he's getting the shit blown out of him by airstrikes. Sorry, continue.
But we're trying something new. So we're able to see that as we're playing. But we saw the helicopters there. But do you have any other examples of ways that, as an indie team, you have kind of used smoke and mirrors to kind of hide certain things or present them in a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I definitely agree with what you said. Like video games are, like it's impossible to simulate everything. That would just be, and that wouldn't even be fun, right? So I guess the way I think of it is like it's an abstraction. I guess like it's like, yeah, I guess like it's like being in your own personal like action movie. But it's like I guess like everything we do is fake. I mean, even that loading screen you saw right there. This is the only level with the working loading screen because we couldn't get the loading screens to work in the other levels. So in the other levels, the actual loading happens during the fade in and out to black, and the loading screen actually doesn't load anything because we couldn't get it to work.
Yeah, that's a topic of mine in my video of just like how loading screens are usually. And Mikey and Tina were speaking about it to me a few weeks ago. Loading screens are just approximations to keep players thinking like, oh, something's happening, things are moving. Hence why, the you guys know this, but for our audience, the moving symbols you see on loading screens are called throbbers in UI talk. And they are literally just there to signify to the player that a process is happening, your screen is not frozen. Like, you just let it happen. That's why we always see, slow zooming, PNGs on loading screens. It's just like something is happening.
Just show motion.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not really real in that sense. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess another thing is for console development, if you ever have a black screen, I think that's more than like 2 or 3 seconds and nothing's moving, or just any screen where nothing's moving for more than 2 or 3 seconds, that's like an instant, I think, certification fail. So
you fail a cert.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
can't even release on console. You need those spinny, throbby things. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess everything we do is fake. Like, what is even like, I don't know, this is a weird question. Like, what is
here's a good question. Maybe here's another way to phrase it. What's
Right.
like a good example of a really fake thing that you did in Trepang2?
Really?
That's a good example of like making it work as a 4-person team, 4-person core team.
I guess there was one time we needed to throw the character in an elevator, but Jacob, our animator, was really busy at the time, and we couldn't even do a proper cutscene. So I just wrote some code where if the player walks close to the elevator, an explosion spawns behind him, and then the camera spins around really quickly, so it looks kind of like he got knocked into the elevator, and then it fades out to black, and it's like, and people thought it was a cutscene, but it's not really a cutscene. It's just some really bad code.
Blasted his acid, that's all.
And it's a necessity for you to take those steps as a small indie team trying to do much bigger ideas, right? A lot of small indie teams wouldn't even think to, oh well, we can't do that because our team can't facilitate it, so let's think of a different way of doing it. Let's frame this information in a different way. And you're like, oh, fuck that, like, let's try this way, and you got the results you needed, but just in a different kind of thought process. I love how we were talking about this with Julia last episode, the restrictions of having a small team, or being solo in her case, mad woman, it can force us to think and program in different ways that we wouldn't have before, and it makes us better programmers, better artists, and stuff like that. Like, do you feel like through this development process, like you've grown, like as a creative?
Yeah, because I think especially because like we announced like a release date and all that, and it's like, we couldn't just indefinitely just keep tweaking things, and because I think it's like, every indie developer, they kind of have this dream of like, what if I just indefinitely tweak things, and then one day this is going to result in a game.
Yeah.
But that never works that way, sadly. And I think once we partnered with a publisher, announced the release date, we're like, well, there's no going back here. We have to release a game at some point.
Yeah.
And I guess it's easy to, as an indie, it's easy to fool yourself and be like, oh, like, it's not good now, but maybe after like 1,000 tweaks, this will be good someday. But once we were looking at the timeline, and like the timeline's like getting smaller and smaller, and our budget's getting smaller and smaller, we're like, all right, we got to focus on what's actually important here. Because I think it's like, we, even if we had infinite money and time, we could feature creep a whole bunch, but that wouldn't necessarily make it a better game, because it's like, for example, like at one point we were thinking like, oh, what if we have a level that's like survival horror, and it's like, you're really powerful in all these levels, but what if in this level you're not, and like you're just running for your life the whole time? And I think we prototyped it quite a bit, but then we realized, like, isn't that just like deceptive marketing? Like we're trying to sell people an action game, and then they play halfway through and it turns into survival horror. So I think having those constraints like prevented us from just making altogether the wrong game that people didn't want to make, right? So. Yeah,
100%.
It's also a question of like, there's a balance that always needs to happen, right? It's okay to change things up. That's one of the things I've been enjoying so much about the campaign is like, I guess this is minor spoilers. Like, here I am, I'm escaping the facility. Now I'm fighting the cultists in the United Kingdom. Now I'm investigating the crash site. Like those you get the energy from the game of like, wouldn't it be cool if I could hear those meetings that you guys had in my head while I play the game, which is great. But then you kind of need to set limits because, yeah, you'll never finish the game. And also, as you're saying, you kind of might stray a bit from the vision. I wouldn't call it deceptive marketing. It's just it would take so much time, and the game would change into something that maybe the people playing it weren't necessarily going to enjoy. So I think that makes sense. And at the same time, that problem to me doesn't feel unique in a sense, but it feels strongest in modding teams and indie teams.
Yes.
It's so easy to get excited by the next exciting thing, right? Instead of like, I should really fix those bugs, man. I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember recently seeing, like, speaking of modding, I saw there was a mod team. They announced, like, I think they were gonna port, like, was it every Bethesda game world into Starfield? And I was like, oh, that sounds like a pretty crazy. They're going to port like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, like I think maybe even Fallout into Starfield. And I mean, they're probably going to be working on it like 20 years from now still.
Yeah, that's now that's an example of that extreme kind of creep. You know, that kind of What if we put everything this company has ever done into one game? It's like
put all the games in one game. It's fine.
No,
There's a Halo map like that or a project. It's quite a. It's like one of those wouldn't it be cool if ideas that starts with maximum creep right at the beginning.
Right.
This is why you need people leading the projects to be able to say no, like we can't do that. You know, somebody has to be the bad guy. But it's, for me, talking about sticking to a vision, as you were speaking about. At what point do you feel like because I feel like once you've got the game and it feels good and you've reached that kind of space, that's when the ideas come in of, well, this is good, but what if we added, like you said, survival horror, or what if we added this and stuff? How long did it take you as a team to reach the point where you were like, this feels the way we want it to, so now it's just adding, more content? Did that take a long time?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe it never felt like that. I think because we're so critical. I mean, like, we definitely do enjoy like playtesting this game and stuff, but like for us, a lot of times we're just like, oh man, there's this bug here, or like, what if we had this, or what if we had that? Like, even like 2 weeks from launch, we're just like, oh man, we missed an opportunity to do this or that. So I think it's just we have to choose to just not die on every hill and just be like, we had to compromise our vision. And so I mean, the game we shipped, like, we're not 100% happy with it, but there's always like, oh, what if we did this, what if we did that? But I mean, I guess that's just life. Like, you have to accept that the game has to ship something.
Sure. Is there a part of it that you're especially proud of, that you, every time you see it in motion, you're like, we really nailed that?
I guess like it's weird because it's like the stuff I did, it's hard for me to be proud of because I can just see like, all right, it needs like fixes, it needs tweaks, it needs but like other people's stuff, like I think, for example, like the animations, like if you can see, like, Jacob did amazing with those animations because he's really experienced. You can just see like look how angry the dude looks when he's running with that shotgun. Right?
Yeah, you can feel it. Like, you can tell. I like the subtle little ones too. Like in the beginning when you find a guy who broke you out and he's dead, and you kind of look at him and you turn up the face to look at the face, and then because the character's not speaking, you have to physically express in an animation very quickly some sort of sentiment or opinion about what just happened. And he just goes tap tap, and he like taps him affectionately on the dead shoulder and then walks away. And it's like, that combined with the music conveyed a lot. It really falls a lot on animation and sound for sure when you're at that scale.
100%.
Right, because I think the thing is like, I mean, I guess I was in charge of things, but I didn't really have experience being in charge of anything really. So I usually left things pretty open ended. I was just like, can you make this thing and make it happen by this date and get it looking like reasonably good or sounding reasonably good? And then whoever's working on it, whether it's animations or music or whatever, they would make something that kind of fits within the vision of the game. And it would usually surprise me, and I'm just like, oh, that's totally not what I expected, but that's actually pretty cool. Like the shoulder tap. Like Jacob had so much fun with the animations. Like there's even one where he's like, poking the elevator, and it looks pretty funny. But, and I mean, like the music, like for this level, I don't know if people can hear, but I think, Music Brandon, our composer, like one day he just woke up and he was like, I'm gonna make a song that sounds like Seinfeld and make it into
Oh, you said it again? Seinfeld, isn't it?
Yeah, Seinfeld. It sounds like the Seinfeld theme. So it's like, it's
I was
just
not aware of that.
I mean, does it not sound like Seinfeld to you, or the Seinfeld? Yeah.
I guess I have to listen more closely to Go ahead, Jay.
I think so. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, if you could make a game, and you were a solo dev, and you could make your dream game, you had unlimited time. Would you do it?" And I think my answer is no, because the beautiful part about indie for me is collaboration. And having an idea, say if you're leading the project or you're in charge of a specific aspect, and you go, hey, like you said, we have this much time to do this, could you get this music to me in this time frame, or this sound effect, or this animation? And you have an idea in your head of what your ideal for that would be. And a lot of the times when you're collaborating, you do have to temper your expectations, because their idea and interpretation is also different. But for me, that's the beauty. The people I've collaborated with in the space, and even here at Second Wind, I ask, hey, can we work on this thing together? Like El Cheshire, the wonderful artist who does a lot of my backgrounds in my animated show, and Javed, who's been recently doing the thumbnails. I ask for a specific thing, thinking I'm being very clear and have an idea of what I'm getting in my head, and then what they turn out is so much better than what I thought in my head, and it's usually different. It's very different from what I had, but I trust them as artists and as individuals to just take that and fly with it. And that's the beauty of indie dev, is that kind of collaboration. With your team, do you find that it was easy for you to kind of give them those ideas and let them fly with them, or was there some back and forth that was needed?
So I think in the beginning, like the very, very beginning, this was just a solo hobby project by me. And I just to add on to your thing about never wanting to do a solo game with infinite resources is, I mean, just imagine what would happen to your sanity if you had like infinite money and time, but you worked on a solo game for like 20 years, you'd go completely crazy. But anyways, I guess, it started solo, and then at some point I was like, like there's no way I can do this by myself. There are people who are actually good at the things that need to be done here, and if I were to attempt them, it would be really terrible. So I guess, like, in the beginning I was a bit maybe too, I had kind of a death grip on things. I was like, oh, like, man, I really wanted it to be this way, and like, why did you make it that way? But then, like, later on, I realized, like, why are these people part of the team, right? They're not here to just, be bossed around by me, because they know things that I don't. And like, ultimately, like, all I can really do is be like, all right, like, it needs to be done by this date. There's this much like funding or budget if you need to, like, buy things or hire other people, and just make sure it fits within, like, Trepang being this crazy action shooter. And just and then after that, just chill out. Don't overwhelm people with input and stuff. Just let them do their thing.
It's really refreshing to hear that. Hear from a lead to be like, I early on had this kind of I don't want to use the word stranglehold, because it sounds super aggressive, like you're abusing
that might be right,
like you want to keep the project in your mind and like
vision,
in your vision.
It started solo, right?
Yeah, and it's totally understandable. I've been in similar spaces with working on projects, but being able to let go of that makes a better work environment, which you guys you've expressed, and also I think makes a better product for the players, and a better experience for them, because games are art, and art expressed through a collective, I feel, can be a lot more powerful than just one singular vision that could be a little bit biased maybe. So I think it's for the best. So you said it started as a solo project. Mikey was speaking about you. We had a meeting earlier in the week, and he said that you had quite an interesting.
I might have been wrong about this.
Oh, okay.
By the way,
okay. Well, I'll just to explain. Like, how did you get into game dev?
Oh yeah, so this is a funny story. I guess what did Mikey say? I want to hear. Did he slander me?
For some reason, I don't want Jay to say my error if it wasn't there.
Okay, yeah.
So, am I wrong there?
So I can't say whether that's true or not. There was a lot of NDAs around that. So I did work for a tech company. There were a lot of U.S. government contracts. I actually didn't even know what I was working on most of the time. Like they didn't actually tell me anything. They had to do a criminal record check, which is quite strange for, a tech company. They usually don't care. But yeah, then after a while, I was like, oh, I saw like some things on some newsletters about like defense stuff, and I was like, oh, that's something I might have worked on. But yeah, so I guess before that, I was an assistant language teacher in Japan at a middle
Cool.
school. And before that, I guess I majored in arts in university. But I guess like all my life, I was doing like mods, just really small indie games. And then I guess yeah, like for some reason, I just didn't want to work in tech or education anymore, and I was like, I'm gonna try doing video game stuff. And I guess eventually, like these crazy three dudes joined me, and then we pitched it to a publisher, and eventually started a company and shipped a game somehow.
That's the dream, dude. Like, so you were like, I'm kind of done with this career path. I want to move into your passion or your games and game development. And you just started that journey, put something together, and pitched it, and it got picked up. That is the dream. That is the absolute dream. Oh, I love it.
I mean, there was like just way too much luck. Like I have no idea like how we got so lucky. Like I mean, the pandemic was actually really good for us because the game economy just was booming when the pandemic started, and we happened to release a demo right at that time, and then all these publishers were coming to us. We actually never reached out to any publishers. They were all just coming to us, which is, I mean, it doesn't work like that right now with the current economy, I imagine. But
Hey,
we just
it's fate, man.
lucky.
It's fate. It's meant to happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that might have been it. I don't know. Like, I don't think we possibly could have been luckier. Like,
these things line up. You got to take it where it comes. Like I know a lot of indie devs who work exceedingly hard and making some really interesting projects, but publishers, don't give them the light of day for whatever reason. I'm not bashing publishers at all. But sometimes, you're in the right place at the right time, and it leads to, this, like Trepang2. Like, this game wouldn't exist if those stars didn't align, so just gotta take it. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. With gameplay, so what was your kind of focus with the structure of how you progress through the game? So with each kind of new area and missions you're going through, what were you trying to achieve? Was it what Mikey said, which was wouldn't it be cool if we were doing this here in this cool environment? Was that it, or did you have other goals for like what you wanted the player to feel in each section?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I got like a lot I can talk about that. But so I guess to start, like, so I think for our whole team, like most of us came from a modding background. Jacob, our animator, was the only one with like AAA studio experience. So I think for the most part, we only made like bite-sized things. It was like, here's like a Half-Life 2 map that's like 10 minutes long. And then maybe like 20 people would download it or something like that. So like I guess we were thinking, like when we first started, we were thinking like really like short-sighted almost. Like we were thinking of gameplay almost like a TikTok. Like we were thinking like, here, have some fun, and then we're like, we don't know what to do after that, but here's another like bite-sized moment of fun.
Okay.
But then once we started putting together entire levels and we're watching people play them, like we'd realize they'd be really fatigued at the end because the pacing was just like all over the place. It'd be like, here, kill 20 guys, here, kill another 20 guys, here, kill another 20 guys. And then in the final room, it's like, kill like 50 guys, and people would just
drop
like,
out.
so drained at the end of it.
I think we lost you for a second there, Wilson. You said people would kill 50 guys, and then
yeah, so it's just, it was nonstop killing, which I think we didn't really fully, I mean, we never really fully addressed this issue, because as you can see in this level, like this one has received quite a bit of criticism for just being endless killing dudes.
I have killed a lot of people, Wilson, in the past 10 minutes. I'm really digesting what you're saying.
You should be ashamed of yourself, You're a murderer.
Well, they're all asleep tonight or ever again.
You've established them through your story that they deserve to die, and they want to kill me. This is self-defense.
All right,
yeah,
I'm sure that will hold up in court.
I mean, they had families, like, I mean, they got to pay their bills. Can you really
There's a
blame
line
them?
about that I noticed. I appreciated that. About life insurance.
Oh yeah.
You remember
That was
that?
yeah. Yes, that was Brandon's idea. Or was it Brandon? Actually, I don't even know. Yeah,
It
there's some
sounds like a
really
Brandon
stupid
thing.
line. It's because we really have to. I mean, for us, like we don't want the bad guys to feel too bad. Like we do want to give them some lines where it's like, oh, it kind of makes sense why they're doing this, why they're just rushing in to get
Yeah.
killed over and over again.
Mm.
So you can
Yeah.
hear their boss yelling at them. But anyways,
Yes.
back to the question about the pacing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I guess yeah. Then we realized like there needs to be more than just killing dudes over and over again, because that's not a game. That's like a Half-Life map pack, right? And people aren't going to pay money for a map pack. So I mean, yeah, like then we started thinking like, all right, what about story, or what about like world building, or what about like here's just like a really cool scene where you get to see something and it just looks really cool, or catches your eye. Or sometimes there'd be nothing happening, and then Brandon would just write like a really cool song, and you just listen to that as that happens. And I think that overall made it a much more enjoyable experience, because killing people over and over again does get old eventually, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting. I like the way you describe it, because it's almost like you built from the inside out. You kind of worked on your core of like, okay, we want like fun combat. Let's kind of create a 20 seconds of fun. And then as you did that, and you're like, well, we can't just keep doing this over and over. Now let's create peaks and valleys. And one way to do that is like through linear experience, a story with a creative level design, aesthetic appeal through the music. And you sort of built out from there, it sounds like, which is a good way that you develop. You work on the little piece first, and then you bring in the bigger pieces.
Yeah, and I think another thing that like we were really skeptical about in the beginning, and I know VA Brandon isn't gonna like it when I call him out, but anyways, VA Brandon, he was a voice actor. He had some background in mapping and stuff, but he wrote like pretty much all the dialogue, hired the voice actors, directed them, and all that stuff. And like there were times.
I think we lost you, Will. You said there were times
for
where
a second. No worries.
Oh,
You're back.
Yeah, my internet is terrible at this place. But yeah, there were times where like here's a quiet moment. Like, what if we have like a radio play even where you just hear characters talk on the radio? And like we were really skeptical about that in the beginning. We were like, man, like would people want to just stop killing people and listen to a radio play? But almost everybody seemed to like that stuff, because it was just expanding on the world, and people wanted to know these characters. And I guess looking back, I wish we did even more of that, but we were a little bit skeptical of it. So yeah, or hold on, I already forgot what the question was. Sorry.
Yeah, it was talking about like, first of all, it was all pacing, and then like how do you put these little moments into the game? I think with you talking about the radio play, I think knowing where to put your resources is really difficult. Like we were speaking about early on, it's very difficult to know what to prioritize in indie development, especially when you're trying to do something so ambitious like this. And for you, being able to be like, are people going to want to do that? Are we going to want to put resources towards something that we think people might skip? Right. This is one of the reasons why a lot of the choices in dialogue and choices in games are so fake and obfuscated, because you're not going to want to make half of your game that only a certain percentage of players who choose a specific dialogue option are going to see, because it's just a waste of resources and it's too costly. But it's really refreshing to hear that, even those small details that internally might think, oh, is this worth it? A player's going to want to do that people are really responding to it, and it's actually flipped it for you, and you're like, we should have done more of that. That should have been a bigger part of it, And in whatever you guys do next, right? Like those thought processes are always going to be there. And that's the beauty of game dev and any kind of profession. We're always growing, we're always learning, and we're going to make something better because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience for sure. Like, I think one thing that kind of shaped the way we pace things overall was like, pretty early on when we were doing the whole thing with just like killing lots and lots of people, and we just kept escalating that. We eventually ran out of room. We're like, how many bad guys are we going to put on the screen? Like 50, 100? And there's like a limit there, right? So I remember we were watching an interview with like, I forgot who it was. It was some famous movie director. But I think I'll paraphrase what he said, but it was something like a good action scene should never have and then. It should be like because then you're just making a pattern and people are just following it and they're just going to fall asleep, right? So it's more about a but then. So it's like, this thing happens and then but then this thing happens and surprises you, but then this thing happens, and so it's like
that's really cool, and I can see that expression in gameplay,
that.
right? And the way I can see that expression in gameplay and how you've done that. It's
yeah.
You're right, Mike? I think you dropped out for a second there, Wilson. So I just tried to take over for a second. What you were explaining about the buts instead of the and thens, that kind of energy, you've really translated that into gameplay, and I think in a way it's also needed in a game like this, because I don't think you ever want to be actively searching around for enemies that are either, looking for you and you're doing this weird Scooby-Doo chase. Like in this kind of experience, that's not entertaining. What I've noticed is what you're doing is there'll be a sea of enemies that are coming for you, that are very aggressively coming for you, and you have to use your skill and your abilities to, outmaneuver them and kill them. And then it's final, but then there's another event that immediately happens that introduces new enemies, and that's how you keep that flow rather than just a trickle. They all slowly walk out the same door in a line and just walk at you. You're always trying to do it in that exciting but way, and I really respect that.
I'm thinking of two examples, and again, I guess there's minor spoilers here, but the first one would be we're about to go down into the depths of the facility, and one of the guys on your team says, "Oh, there's probably going to be a ton of grunts down there. Watch out!" And you go down there, and everybody's dead. And you're like, "Oh wait, I was playing this like incredibly fast-paced power fantasy shooter, as people would describe it, and then now I'm just kind of wandering around, and it's a little scary. I don't know what happened here. I'm so powerful, and something killed all these people. I'm starting to feel a little insecure about my power." Like that. That was a cool moment. And then in a more, I guess, not silly way, but bombastic way, maybe, there's you're on the oil rig, you're fighting the guys, and then there's a giant sea monster, I think it was, or an alien.
UFO,
which is that was a big but then, I would say.
Yeah, I think like we tried to the alien butt. Yeah, like we tried to take as many 180s as possible. I mean, speaking of alien butts, I remember reading about the Raising the Bar, the book about the development of the Half-Life games, and the original name for Black Mesa was Black Butt, apparently. Or it's Butte. Butte. Like I don't know how you pronounce that. It's like a coral butt. I don't know. Anyways,
it's all coming back to butts. Who'd have thought that entertaining game design all comes back to butts? Think about that.
I mean, during meetings, sometimes the other guys would just start screenshotting butts of the characters and
it's happening. It's all coming out. We're figuring it out. The secret to Trepang2 is butts.
Is butts.
This is actually. I want to ask you something about this, Wilson, if I could, because this butt thing is a good transition. Can we talk a little bit about your marketing? I feel like indies listening right now, AA's listening, might benefit from learning a little bit about your, what I guess I would just call subversive approach to that, because it is butt related, I would say.
Okay, so obviously I can't take too much credit for it, because I think music branding kind of got the ball rolling with all the memes and silliness and stuff. But I can offer a bit of perspective, because like I was a bit lucky in university. There was a loophole basically where people who were undeclared, they could apply to do a work term under any faculty, and then I chose to do a few business work terms. So I worked in marketing for about a year. I mean, this is like a decade ago, so my knowledge wasn't super up to date. But I think one thing that I did learn was like a lot of like small businesses, they think their brand like has a lot of weight to it, and like they think they can just do the same thing as like a big company. And I guess if you're like a small company and you've always been looking at that logo and your slogan or whatever, then like to you, and like you've always been working there, like to you that means the world, and you think you can just like put that thing out there and people will love it. But unfortunately you can't do that, right? And it's like for example, a lot of indie game companies, they'll release a trailer, and like the first 15 seconds, it will just be like a bunch of logos and like somebody with a cool voice saying something. And I guess the thing is, like, if you're at a AAA company, those names like have decades of history, and hundreds of millions of customers know that name. And when they have that cool voice, it's like Troy Baker or Keanu Reeves or something. That those kind of voices like sell units, right? And I guess as an indie, like, you have to just acknowledge that you can't just try to emulate like what works for like this huge company. Like you can't just like put a picture of your main character and then get people to get excited, right? Because it's like, you know, someone like Master Chief or Captain Price, there's like decades of games and trailers that made these characters really important to people. So for us, like, we knew, and we also knew, like, you know, we as 4 people, like, we can't really focus our efforts on making a trailer, because I mean, imagine if the game got delayed because we're so busy making trailers, right? So I guess we had to just focus on small things that would make a big impact, and like a lot of that was just like posting a bunch of silly memes. And I mean, like a lot of people are scared. They're like, oh, what if I you know, post a meme and then nobody looks at it? And it's like, but like, you know, worst case scenario is just, you know, nobody looks at it. You lose nothing.
Yeah.
But making a meme costs you nothing. So if you know, for us, we would just post like a video of a dude exploding and put like a silly caption, and like most of the time it would get like no attention at all, right? But occasionally the algorithms would bless us and we'd get like thousands of views or whatever. But I guess honestly, like, our most effective marketing thing, even with the publisher, like the most cost effective thing that we realized we were, that was like, yeah, the most cost effective thing for us was just sending keys to YouTubers and streamers. I mean, most of them would just ignore it, or like maybe they play it and do nothing. But the few that did make videos, some of them would get like hundreds of thousands of views. And then, like, surprisingly, a lot of those people would go to our Steam page and wishlist or buy the game. And yeah, it was just, it doesn't cost you anything to send a Steam key, right? So
we're in a kind of, well, we have been for a while. We're in a new age of marketing, and sometimes having a huge ad campaign is really useful, but having a even moderately successful YouTuber cover your game passionately, whether that's, you know, saying they really don't like a thing or they really like something else, can have way more weight, because I think it has more conversion, because people feel such a connection to the people they watch. When there are YouTubers I watch that if they recommend a thing, I'm like, yeah, cool. I my views line up with this person. I love their taste. If they're saying it's good, I'm gonna go get it. You don't really get that from an ad, right? That can only just push one kind of idea. But when you really get into it, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a YouTuber, but you know,
we're very reliable. And we understand.
Yeah, we're all very trustworthy, right?
Please donate to my Patreon and buy NordVPN.
Yeah, so
like and subscribe button.
Thank you for all the donations that have come in so far for this podcast. We'll read them out later. We really appreciate you guys. But yeah, I think something beautiful you said there as well was not trying to emulate what we're seeing in the AAA space. I think it's also important to understand that it's also good to not try and be wholly unique. I see a lot of new indies that are just like, well, we can't do this because this other game did that and that is bad and stuff like that, and we don't want to be pointed out as copying it and stuff like that. It's like, nothing is wholly original. You are never going to make a thing that is wholly unique. So just concentrate on doing the niche thing in your game that you think is the fun part. Do that really well. And for me, Trepang2 is that done to a T. Like, it's spot on.
Yeah, well, I feel like we could have been a little bit more original. We'd probably make the next one a little bit more out there. But yeah,
More
like,
out
I definitely do more
out that has alien butts.
Okay, right on. I like it.
Juicy alien butts. Announced right here. Suppose I'm talking about.
Being unique and focusing on the unique aspects.
Right. So I think that since, like, I guess because, like, there's so much data out there right now, and it's like, it's so easy to get like analysis paralysis and just think, oh, we can't do this, like they're already doing that, or we can't do that, and like, And it's like that South Park episode where they're like, "Oh, The Simpsons did it." I don't know if anybody's seen that, but
Yeah. Totally.
I think. Anyways, yeah. Like I guess like the thing is like, when you start with an idea as an indie, like you have to compromise things anyway, because you have to focus on your strengths, and like you'll realize like, oh, we tried this and it didn't work. So it's like your original idea is not really going to resemble what the final product is anyway. And I also feel like trying too hard to be original, it's kind of like back when everybody was a hipster. They were all like trying to be really original, but then they all just started, liking the same music and looking the same. It's like, because if everybody's trying to be different, then you're all going to eventually, just converge into a blob. So, I mean, I guess like for example, like I don't mean this in like a bad way, but like, there are a lot of like almost every day on Steam, you'll see like a dozen like 2D side scrollers, and the theme is like, recovering from a breakup or something like that. And I don't think necessarily that's bad, but like I think a lot of those people were trying to be unique, but they were all thinking the same thing. Oh, not my internet, please.
You're okay. It's just a video.
It's okay.
Slightly.
But I guess one thing that we believed in was just like, if we make a good game, like even if there's like 5 or 10 others out there that are like us, or it's been done before, like people are still going to play it. And it's like there's so many games out there now, like you're not just competing with what just came out, like you're going to be competing against like games that came out like 30 years ago on Steam or Go on Galaxy or whatever. So it's like, I think that's not something people need to overthink, honestly.
It's a balancing act, it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's really, really difficult. All right, just mindful of the time.
Sorry.
Usually our pitch things take a while, so I think what we'll do, and we've got like quite a few donations, thank you guys, I will be going through them a little later on, but I think what we should do is probably move it over to the pitch, and apparently Tina has made us a little video that Eric has prepared, so we're gonna watch this.
Let me stop playing here so I can actually
cool.
get back. So Eric, you want to switch me over? I'm gonna leave the game open, but I will save. Okay. I want to hear from the chat. How'd I do? That was very hard difficulty, and I didn't beat a single level.
That's the thought that counts, right?
Yes, it is the thought that counts. I was having fun the whole time. You could probably
that's all that matters.
Look, it's Tina.
It's true. Okay, hi Tina.
Hey everyone, I'm so sorry that I missed today's episode. Hi Wilson, I'm sad that I didn't get to meet you. I have a gift though for all of you. Hi Jay, hi Mike. We're gonna play the improv game. It was inspired by Amnesia's Fortnite from Double Fine, and I have a cool gift to show you to just start the whole process.
Ooh.
So as you can see, it's a break dancer. Kind of doing I think it's the windmill move. I think that's what it's called, with a flame coming out of his ass. Because maybe the player hit a perfect combo. I'm not really sure.
It's bots. It's
all
bots.
want to utilize that special effect in a game. But I was initially thinking that the premise of the game is similar to QWOP. I don't know if you've played this before, but Eric will be very kind in showing you an image of that as well. So QWOP is 4 keys, QWOP, and you hit them to make a marathon runner run across the screen. And the goal is to get past the finish line. So I'm thinking maybe you have to hit a couple keys on the keyboard to make the perfect windmill or breakdancing move. This was honestly inspired by watching Raygun during the Olympics. She is now forever a meme on the internet because of her silly, I guess that's silly dance moves. Anyways, I'm curious to know what you all come up with. What is the game itself? Take it away.
Thank you so much, Tina. Absolutely
Thank you, Tina.
Amazing.
I'll keep that gift up there.
We'll have that gift stay there. We're so sad you couldn't join us. Okay, so Alien Bots, guys.
Yes.
It's all come full circle. We can see both cheeks. I'm happy. But how do we gamify this? How do we make this a game?
My first.
Go for it.
Sorry, go ahead, Jay. No, finish, and then I'll jump in. Okay.
I got nothing, dude. If you can gamify alien,
Okay. I'm going to do my best here. Okay. There was a subject 106 and a half. All right. Now, 106 and a half was some sort of explosive assassin. Okay. If any of you guys have ever read Scud, the Disposable Assassin, his whole deal was like you'd pay him money. He's a robot. He'd go and he'd kill somebody, right? And then he would explode, tying up the loose ends, right? Because you can't charge an exploded robot for murder. And you couldn't track down who paid the robot to murder. This is just a guy who explodes. Like you pay him and he's an assassin. He goes somewhere. He's a subject who has no memory. He just has an inclination to do something. And he goes out and he blows up. Maybe he's not even a robot. But there was an error with the experiment. And instead of just exploding and combusting, he just exploded and combusted out of his asshole. And when that happened, he realized, like, wait, I thought there's some sort of lie. They go somewhere and they think that they're meeting with a dignitary to negotiate a deal, whatever. There's some sort of false memories there. Then he realizes, wait, but I just exploded out of my asshole. My whole life is a lie. And he decides to swear vengeance on the people who tried to turn him into a suicide bomb. But he has no martial abilities except for the flame shooting out of his ass.
So
he goes and he learns capoeira, and then no, go ahead.
That's capoeira.
Isn't that different from breakdance? That's like a martial art, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a martial art,
like a dancing inspired.
Yeah. So I think it's Brazilian. It's a Brazilian martial art.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's the guy from Tekken, Eddie, who does the
yes.
mad...
He does capoeira. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a human experiment that explodes out of his ass that uses capoeira to take down the scientists and government body that turned him into the monster he is.
Well, he doesn't know. Is it the government or was it a private corporation? Maybe we need.
So he has to figure it out over the course of the game.
He doesn't know yet, at least. Maybe it was like a Horizon-like corporation. Okay. Maybe it was the government. I can't connect the dancing to it, though, but I like the idea that he went to learn capoeira.
I think it's capoeira.
Yeah, he's a dancer in his actual life or something. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was kidnapped and turned in, and he has this. Maybe it's like Jason. You know how in Jason Bourne, disassembles the gun, and he's like, "How did I know how to do that?" What if like the security personnel near the target he was supposed to assassinate, they're like, "Oh my god, like we don't know what's going on, but you're clearly a threat. We're going to shoot you." And he just capoeira ass blasts them, and then he goes, "Oh my god, I know capoeira."
No, I know capoeira. Doesn't mention that he can blast like rocket fuel out his ass.
Yeah,
he's just like, that's not
a remarkable skill in my opinion. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking just like Jason Bourne, he retires from killing because he's like, I'm done with that life. It's over now. And then he starts his second life. He's like, capoeira is my life now. And you know, I guess there's still some remnants of his previous life where, you know, he accidentally ass blasts while he's doing the capoeira moves. But, you know, he's desperately trying to just, you know, do things. And when suddenly, you know, the FBI shows up at his door and they're like, subject 106.5, we need you and your ass blasting capoeira skills to take down like this evil bad guy.
Okay. And he replies, I told you I was done with ass blasting. At the end, the Federation.
A little bit.
What's that? Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, toots a little bit. Where does he says that?
Toots a little bit. Yeah. So I love this. Like narratively, I think this is fantastic. But I wanna bring this back to mechanics and like how we are gonna explore this.
You're right. Let's back it up. Let's back that up. You're right.
I think we've nailed the narrative. It's literally put a pin in it. It's done. How are we going to explore this mechanically? So Tina's idea was the kind of quap like jank movement, but I think we do something similar, but instead of it being a struggle, it's just that is how you explore dancing. So each situation he gets into, it's normal movement until we go into capoeira ass blast mode, where maybe time slows down and you can quap dance around, and you've got to try and like get over furniture and desks and stuff to like navigate your ass in the direction of the guys trying to kill you.
Navigate your ass.
Do we have a dedicated blast button, or does it happen in proximity? We got to think about, you know, user experience. How are we doing this?
There
maybe
was
it's
an
like,
interesting innovation. Or go ahead, Will. Yeah, go ahead, Wilson. Yeah.
oh, I was just thinking maybe it's like F-Zero or Mario Kart where it's like the nitro button and you press it, you just ask blast nitro. But anyways, yeah, that's my idea. Go on.
Because it works, right?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
because if I'm understanding you right, Jay,
Mm.
you're saying like, what if it wasn't like janky? What if it was like a really fluid, like Trepang, a
Yeah, it's
fluid
felt-
sort of action experience? And I'm thinking about how in Vampire Survivors, how they kind of innovated on the bullet hell genre by making you not have to shoot, right? Like you didn't have to hit the attack button. What if the ass blasting was automatic and it was more about positioning, getting yourself into the right?
I think the positioning
position
is
to-
the thing that we need to focus on because we can really
Yeah.
break down how many inputs the player's going to need to do. And
Right.
that's super important. And it's about just like getting into the right positioning
Yeah.
and moving across the environment fluidly. Right. I think that's the most important thing. But also, I'm going to throw out a curveball here. If we had a dedicated ass blast button, it could simultaneously be used for combat and also traversal.
Ooh. So you blast an enemy in the face and then
Not
and then
while I'm
fly right into
drinking
it.
near my computer.
Okay, so if your booty is close enough to a surface and your legs are positioned correctly, if said ass blast button is pressed, let's say, it's Q or E on the keyboard, the blast from your ass will propel your body. And here's another curveball. If you do that mid-air, if you try to quap move, you do poses and you get style points.
Okay.
Oh, yes,
That's
yes.
how the
I
style
get
point.
it. I'm seeing it. Yeah.
Feel that.
Can we have those style points fuel up your own ass blasting? Like I like the idea that it's not just points for style, right? It's a resource.
Oh
You
yeah, you
accumulate.
build
Yeah.
it up. Yeah, I like that. I like
But
that.
what are we
like,
building up toward?
Yeah,
Ego.
I'll top
He's
tier.
really self-conscious, so he needs to build up his
Ego.
ego before he gets blast up his ass. I mean, it's an embarrassing thing, right?
That's
true. Oh.
So if the bar goes down to the bottom, he goes like, "Oh shucks, I'm out of
shit.
here," and he just leaves because he's too embarrassed.
This is game over.
If that, he can only. Does your ass blast get stronger the more confident you are? So if you're building up your style points, if you
Yeah.
fail, you only let out a little toot. But if you build up the combo to get the S rank, which is ass, it's A double S. Ass tier. You can effectively, it's really hard to get there, but if you get there, you can press the button and it just kills everyone in the room because you effectively just combust.
That's good.
It's like a fart
I
bomb.
like that.
So it's a risk reward thing, right? Are you gonna be jumping into the air doing your poses and your moves to impress everyone around you and build your confidence?
Yeah,
I mean,
my God.
I like that.
he could be eating beans too to fuel that. I mean, instead of mushrooms, he's gonna pick up beans. Everyone else is gassy.
We also don't explain it, right? So everywhere you go, be it like a scientific facility or a castle to take down the big boss where he's held up.
There's a can
Every
of
room you
beans.
go, there's always cans of beans everywhere, and they're the resource you have to go.
And there's all these goons like clamoring through the kitchens of the facilities that the ass blaster's about to attack, and the goons are like smashing the bean cans to make sure he doesn't have any beans to get. What do you destroy them? Get rid of them. They're burning the mushrooms.
I mean,
All I can
there's?
imagine.
Oh.
Sorry, was it go for it?
Oh, I was just saying, there's got to be like hazards. What if there's like a methane gas leak or something, and then, or like and you accidentally fart into it, and then it just explodes the whole place. I mean,
That's involuntary. I can't say the word. Involuntary toots. Like if you fuck up your combo, you let out a little blast, and they can be small because it's your failure state, right? You've messed up your combo. You let out a little, but it's really, really bad because certain like obstacles for you to platform over are like the room's filled with gas, and it's like if you mess up, you're dead. That's our fail condition, right? So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, wait. That just gave me an idea. What if he's a superhero, right? But he's like a masked superhero. So during his daily life, people don't know he's Ass Blaster whatever his name was. So
Ass
what if he has, yeah, he's Ass Blaster man. What if he has to like, it's like Spider-Man. He has to like go on dates and stuff and like not show off his abilities. So it's like, you have the daytime game loop and then you have the superhero nighttime game. So in the daytime, he's going out with like Mary Jane or whoever, and like, he's got to hide all his abilities. He can't, and she's like, oh, today we're gonna go eat some tacos and some beans, and he's like, no.
You gotta take me there. I can't do that.
Says something like, "What? Are you afraid you're going to be gassy? That's okay. You don't have to
That's
be
the,
self-conscious about that. You don't know the half of it, lady."
That's the conflict that's causing the rift in their relationship. She's like, why won't you go to this Mexican restaurant with me? It's my favorite food. Why just won't you go? You like the food. Dude, there's so
and it's
much
like it's a
turmoil.
deal breaker. Yeah, like,
It's a deal breaker. Honestly, you're the love of my life, but if you won't go eat these beans with me, it's over, honestly. I'll find a man who will.
these beans.
like maybe she's allergic to like everything but beans, so it's like he has to. It's just like, I don't know, lactose intolerant and everything intolerant and allergic to like everything. So I mean, it's a really, how do you say, it's a relationship that's like Romeo and Juliet. It's like, they're meant to be, but also they just can't happen. It's like,
We love each other, but I need him to
Shakespeare and
eat
tragedy.
beans.
We might all be going to hell for comparing Ass Blaster 2000 to Shakespeare.
Oh, oops. I mean, he's dead, so.
Hey man, he can't say anything.
Yeah, you can't say. I heard he probably had a ghostwriter anyway. He didn't. Who writes that much stuff by themselves?
Yeah,
So-
right.
I think
Okay.
Shakespeare would like what we're talking about because I think he had a sense of humor, and
Right.
This isn't a joke,
silly.
Mikey. This isn't a joke. This is serious. This is
Oh,
this
no,
is a
I'm
very
sorry.
serious
I apologize.
superhero espionage
What-
game that we're talking about. And
What's the
I'd
theme?
appreciate it if you took it seriously.
You're right. I deeply apologize. Speaking of which, what's our theme here? Like, what are we trying to tell? What are we trying to tell the world with Ass Blaster? Like, what's he going to learn through his arc? What's he at the end? Is he
What
going?
aren't we
Oh,
trying to
I never
say?
had to be self. Yeah, exactly. What are we trying?
What
to
aren't
say?
we trying to say? There's no limits to what you could learn from Ass Blaster 2000. It's any aspect of the game could teach you so many different lessons, right? Let's just think of one mechanic, the capoeira, the movement, the style points. What is that teaching our players? Like morally, a lot of things,
Morally.
right?
I mean, yeah,
I think
like,
it's to take. Go ahead. Sorry, Wilson. Yep.
oh, I was saying, like, he could use capoeira to kill people because it's like a martial art, but then it's also like a beautiful thing that he can do to perform. So it's like, with great power comes great responsibility because he can kill people with that capoeira.
I love the
or
ideas
he
of the
can,
cutscenes, right? Like his Mary Jane that we have in this game who can only eat beans. They're going out on a lovely night out. Maybe they're learning to dance together and they're doing the waltz and stuff. But then they turn on like a bit of a spicier beat, and his capoeira just kicks in, right? And he just starts busting it out. Maybe he takes a few dances out while he's doing it, and he has to flee, right?
No.
And now Mary Jane knows. She's like, oh no, he's the capoeira killer. Like, is she gonna report him to the cops or?
and he calls her up on a bird. He's like, everything I did against the people who wronged me, the people who made me this way. And she's like, that's not what they're saying on the news. The news is lying. I love you.
Mainstream media's lying to you.
Going into the pier.
Sends another voicemail. By the way, this is why I couldn't eat those beans. They sound really delicious.
It's like, how is this related to the capoeira?
And when she hears that, she drops the phone because she knows now. She understands. He always loved her.
Okay.
He just couldn't have beans. It was too revealing and embarrassing.
I mean, maybe they'll learn to appreciate each other. Maybe he'll just eat those beans in front of her and ass blast a little bit, and everybody will leave the restaurant.
There's a British movie called Thunderpants. Have you guys seen that?
No. What's
No.
Okay, so all the Brits in the chat will know this movie. It's about a kid who, and I'm paraphrasing because I haven't seen it since I was a child, but it's about a kid who farts so much, like to the point where they're so bad and they're so large, right? That it becomes a problem. He can't. I think his mum or his dad leaves the family and runs away because the kid farts so much, and he gets bullied at school. But then he uses it as a weapon against his bullies. But anyway, I think it's the U.S. Space Force, like NASA, contact him or something to basically use his farts to fuel a rocket to take him to space. So there's an image of it.
Thank you, Eric. There's a great picture right now.
Yeah,
on the screen.
And this is it. So he could probably, and they give him this special suit, right, that he can wear. It's like a spacesuit, and he farts into it, and it inflates, and then like turns it into fuel and stuff. I think that's what our character could have. So we could have beans with Mary Jane. He could have a special suit that allows him to concentrate his energy, and that's how we get to that big blast, right? This is his super suit. As you're doing your capoeira and you're going, your ass blasts are happening, and they're being contained in the suit, and the button you press is the valve to open it, which is also situated in your
So there's like... Go ahead, Wilson. Sorry.
How is he going to breathe while his suit is filled with
his head's out.
Special apparatus.
It stops here. And he was just fully engaged, getting like baking himself.
This is an important part of the suit. He can't smell it because he'll just die right away. So there's a connection point here. I'm liking this. There's a bit of like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The thing I was embarrassed about is actually a great strength sort of arc, which I like.
Or like
and there's an opportunity for a mentor figure who's like from the government and is like, I could teach you to control it. And he's like, what do you mean? Then he gets the suit. Now it's like a little crisis.
Does he contact him after he randomly finds it, after he like accidentally asks, like Jason Bourne ass blast someone, and he's like, I didn't know I could do this.
Right.
And they find him in the alley, and they're like, I've been following you for years.
I like what Wilson said, where like the feds come and they find out about this because of course they would, and maybe they hook him up with the mentor. The mentor is already working for the government. I don't know. We could like combine those parts a little bit.
Senior ass blaster, like he was an ass blaster, but then he just
he was an ass blaster.
The feds bring him into the facility like, what, was used in the first one to blast out of your ass.
He's the grizzled old.
That's his intro
version. He was used in the war, and now he's washed up, and he's come to mentor the new blood or the new gas.
He's Captain Ass Blaster.
Black operations involving high degree of risk that only ass blasting could.
And like,
the only way.
He got injured. He got injured, during the Cold War or something, like in Vietnam. Like he like stepped on a mine or something, and then he ass blasted no more. Like, he knows all the knowledge about it, the mentor, but he can't do it anymore.
I get it now.
He prototyped the suit, and he tried to use it in combat, and it backfired. And I don't know, maybe
literally backfired.
Literally backfired.
Or he forgot to seal it or something, and then he did like irreparable harm to himself.
He has like a two-face thing going on where half his face is burnt by his own gas.
And he lost his girlfriend.
The suit was sealed off there. Everything below his neck is like
it's all shriveled up.
Completely fucked, and he wears a big trench coat or something.
Oh, so there's a part where he's talking to the mentor, and the guy's like, the new ass blaster is like, you don't understand what I'm going through. What do you know about pain? And he just frowns and he just reveals his chest, and he shows like, I was first.
It's scarred, it's burnt, and also it kind of stinks. Like he can smell it. It's like when he reveals it still smells.
It's a rancid old wound.
After like 20 years, the ass blast part just never leaves.
I'm telling you, boy, if you get hit by this ass blast, it doesn't heal. It's just you're permanently wounded.
You want to get the people that did this to you. You need to learn to control it.
And he's like, I lost my loved ones, my lover too. Like she didn't understand. He's like, you'll just have to give up on her, man.
Right?
They don't understand people like us.
Exactly. That's what he says. But by the end, he reunites with Mary Jane. She understands. That's his. You're wrong, mentor. Love can happen to an ass blaster or something like that.
Love can blossom on the ass blasting field.
I kind of I kind of thought this would start being more of a mechanical game, but the narrative is really developing.
No, we're
Yeah, this is like a visual
story.
novel.
I do think the mechanical aspect, we've just nailed it. It's like that's exactly what it is. It's a capoeira
it's really
co-op ass blasting style points game.
Yeah. And it's first person, right? Just to be clear, because that was how.
Oh no, I think I'm thinking like co-op. I'm thinking like it's half visual novel and half 2D like 2D side scroller. Like imagine the complexity of something like Katana Zero. But
look that up.
But with co-op ass blasting. Eric will pull up Katana Zero. He'll do it like that. Because he's
I'm feeling you now. Yeah.
You have to be able to see.
You're right. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Because if you're in first person, right, you're not going to be able to see the capoeira moves and the dancing, right? Unless there's a mirror. So yeah, if you see the gameplay footage, everyone who's listening, we're currently looking at gameplay of Katana Zero. We've got a lot of the fast movement, move in, get the quick kills, and the narrative aspects. I think we could really replace a lot of this samurai katana wielding gameplay with our capoeira style point ass blasting.
Ass Blaster Zero.
Yes.
Ass Blaster Zero.
Superhero origin story.
Okay.
And Wilson, you could do all the particle effects.
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, particles are so much fun. I mean, okay, if we're gonna do it. I mean, actually, a fun fact is, like a lot of our smoke particles, for an unknown reason, Jacob, our animator, he likes to name things fart gas. So a lot of our particles are just named fart gas for some reason, and so whenever I'm trying to find, I'm like, where's this smoke particle? And I have to type in fart gas to find it because, Jacob just likes to name
I never thought we would get so much ass out of this podcast. Like, it has come back to butts so much. I'm not complaining. I think this is top tier content. I think this is incredible. I've seen in the chat people are loving it. I think we should talk about booties more on the podcast, honestly. Tina also didn't know about any of this and brought us an ass blast gif. Oh, it's beautiful. I'm so happy right now. So happy.
I'm quite pleased.
I mean, are you guys gonna get demonetized, do you think, from all the ass blasting we talked about?
And beautiful segue. That doesn't matter because we are primarily funded by our wonderful patrons and all of your kind donations, which we're going to go through now, which are going to progressively get more skewed towards being about booty as we progress. Because I've got a few to read out. Some of them are lovely questions. So we'll just go through these and answer them as they come. Again, thank you so much for supporting us with your donations and everything on Patreon. We really appreciate all of you. And let's go through them. So Snake in the Garden, hello, gives €2 and says, shout out to Eric, the MVP of Second Wind. Yep, Eric, a podcast producer in the back end. We love you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. You're doing a great job.
All right, Jewel Rowe with €2. Thank you. It says, I really love Trepang 2. Still have to play the DLC.
Oh shit! Yeah, I mean,
Wilson, can you quickly summarize the DLC? Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So you get to use a sword. You can play Fruit Ninja versus the bad guys and just slice them up, and then it launches them in the air when you slice them up. I know real physics don't work that way, but that's how our sword works. And then you can play Fruit Ninja as you slice up their organs and their bodies as they all fall down. So I'd say that's worth $1. Go check it out sometime.
Beautiful.
Right, so
thank you.
Sovereign with the €5. A lot of euros. Thanks, Euro peeps. Sovereign says, from a big fan of Fear, I absolutely loved Trepang 2. So a big thank you for helping me scratch that particular itch. You did an amazing job. Awesome job.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. Glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Holy hell. Brandon McCagan, thank you so much, has given $100. Thank you.
Geez, Brandon, please.
Much appreciated. Brandon. It says, Devheads yet again with another awesome podcast episode. Grateful for you guys, Wilson and Trepang 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yes,
Brandon.
Me too, Brandon.
Love you, buddy.
Pass that forward
Thank
to
you.
Tina as well. We're sad she couldn't be here, but she infected us with her certain brand of chaos, even from, I was going to say from the grave. She's not dead.
She's fine. She's all right.
She's actually alive. Tina's last words were not sending us that video. She's like, that video is like, okay,
What
so
a way
if
to
you
go
find
out,
this,
though.
I'm already dead. By the way, here's this gift. Come up with a game.
I mean, maybe that's why she didn't join. She was just like, this is too ridiculous. I can't be a part of this. She just dropped it and left.
It's all play, isn't it?
She prepped it. Legend.
Oh,
Pretty Fist with the $5. Thank you. Says first time getting to watch live. Thanks, Mikey, for giving us over at the Hideous Destructor commentary a shout out a few episodes ago.
those are my
Hell
people.
yeah.
That's that Doom 1 and 2 mod that I told you guys about. The Ghosts and
the-
Goblins meets Ghost Recon is what they like to call
Yeah,
it.
dude, I still
Simulation.
need to play that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we should.
awesome.
It's,
Here's
oh, look, there's
another
a fucking
shout out.
video of it.
Yeah,
That's
hell
awesome.
Yeah. I'm keen.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Pretty.
we should check that out.
Yeah.
More coverage.
It's like a
Thanks, Pretty.
hardcore tactical simulation FPS. Look, imagine playing Doom 1 and you're like loading bullets into magazines. That's Hideous Destructor.
It's like
So
Tarkov Doom.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit. Like core
Oh.
mechanically, yes. Yeah. Is wild.
That sounds
so
pretty
awesome.
insane, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll show you. We'll check it out. It's I've never played anything like it, to be honest with you.
Hell yeah. Dark Jacko with $5. Thank you, and says thank you for the convo as always. Wilson, what was it like putting your game on multiple platforms? I know a lot of small teams only tend to release on Steam.
Oh, so actually, it was a nightmare. I don't recommend it. Don't try this at home.
Yeah, I bet.
I love your candor, Wilson.
So I mean, I'm really glad. We had Kitty Face Software. They helped us with porting to the consoles and putting it on all the other platforms. But man, it is a lot of work because each platform they have their own like APIs for like how you do achievements and stuff, and they might have their own certification process. They might be like, you can't do this, you have to do this, and it's like. Obviously, you don't want to tweak it just for that one platform because then people might get mad, or you end up having like several branches of the same game, right? So it's like if you're to tweak it to meet certification for one platform, you got to tweak it for everybody. So
Yeah.
everybody has to suffer, I guess. But yeah, sorry.
No,
That's crazy.
I like that you're sharing that, man, because
Right.
people should understand the challenge. This is like part of our thesis with DevHeads in a sense, right? Like we're
Yeah.
trying to make people understand what it's like to be a developer from that perspective and also talk gaming stuff, but from that perspective. And like people need to know when stuff sucks and it's terrible and it's really hard.
Totally sucks. Yeah, I think if you don't have a porting studio to help you, like I really wouldn't recommend it. Like just do it one at a time. Really, it's way too much work. It's just
Who are the guys you
yeah.
said that helped you or the people that helped you?
Kitty Face Software, so KITTEH software, or sorry, KITTEH Face software. Yeah, they're pretty
Props
nice
to them.
dudes. Yeah, they
Props to
worked
the
on,
unsung heroes doing that contract work.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. So check out their other games if you're ever bored and want to look at other well-ported games.
Hell yeah.
It's an art.
It is
Chris-
definitely. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Crispy Jeb, what a name. Crispy Jeb gives $2, cheers, and says, so how do you pronounce Trepang2? Have I been saying it wrong?
So actually, we're probably all saying it wrong. So the name came from a game jam back in I think 2011. Me and a bunch of other friends, not these Trepang dudes, were making a game about a sea cucumber for a game jam, and we just Googled like exotic words for sea cucumber, and I think it was like Malaysian or Indonesian, and it's pronounced Trepang, and it means like sea cucumber, and it can also mean a verb for catching sea cucumbers. But
Okay.
I don't speak Indonesian or Malaysian, so I don't know how it's pronounced. Sorry.
Well, if anybody does know the correct pronunciation, please hit us up because
Let us know.
being correct.
Quick note here before I forget. If I remember right, Wilson, in an interview, you explained the connection between that game and this one having something to do with like evisceration. What was that? I can't remember exactly. Like something
Oh,
that
right.
happens in sea cucumbers. Yeah. Go ahead.
So sea cucumbers, they defend themselves by spitting out their organs. And I guess that's what the first game was about. You're a sea cucumber underwater. and there's like giant squids attacking you, and you launch your organs out to make them attack your organs instead, so you can get to the finish line. Here's a picture of a sea cucumber. Yeah, exactly. It's like, try and eat me now, huh? And it's like, oh wait,
I'm gross. That's crazy.
But yeah, like the second game doesn't have much to do with sea cucumbers, but I guess it still has organ evisceration, so it kind of fits, right?
Hey, you can find that thread anywhere. It's you just gotta connect the dots.
Yeah. Gotta be creative,
You guys are making my earbuds fall out. I'm laughing and smiling so much.
Yeah, that's definitely our fault, Mikey.
Yeah, it's both your fault. Damn it. I'm sorry. Continue, Jay. I keep interrupting.
That's right. Rose Delta gives $2. Thank you so much, and says, "Why is Ass Blaster not a Windbreaker's subject?" So we have another podcast that happens on Mondays with Windbreaker. So honestly, if I'm on next week's Windbreaker, I'll raise this and we'll talk about it there as well. Sean Harringman has been a member for 8 months. Thank you so much, Green Gang. Climate change activists hunt him down in Ass Blast 2. So in Ass Blast 2, he's become an enemy of the state because of how much gas he's pumping into the atmosphere.
He's just ripping a hole in the ozone. There's so much. It's causing people to get burned by the sun and toxic fumes everywhere. He's
Don't stop
and he can't help it.
World.
And then there's a conversation of like, is it worth it? Like at that point, maybe he's like a government asset and he's killing people that are ostensibly bad, but he's really just a tool of the state. And like, is it worth the sacrifice? Sorry, I'm getting back into it again.
No,
it's like commentary about the. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I was just gonna say crime rates are at an all-time low, but it's drastically affecting the planet. We're unable to harvest many crops. A lot of people are dying. So what do we want? Food or crime?
Food or crime?
I mean, maybe both. You can have.
It's a story about balance. This is a DLC, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah, or a
Force.
sequel.
You need the dark side and the light side of the ass blasting.
Well said, Wilson.
Amazing. Okay, so Pi gives $2 and says, Trepang2 is an SCP type game. Thanks for the twist ending.
Oh, don't say anything yet.
No spoilers
Yet. Whoever.
Oh, well, you're welcome, I guess. I mean, we like to do twists. We like to surprise people. It's always fun seeing the reactions. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Same person, Pi, with another $2 and says, is there a wiki for the secret lore in the game?
Oh, I think so there is a wiki. I think if you look up Trepang2 wiki, but there's some silly stuff there that's not quite accurate. Like it says there's like the original developer was named Gavin Alford, and I don't know who that is, but anyways.
some guy. There's some guy Gavin who wants the clout.
Yeah, well he's part of the lore now. Maybe
how do you spell Gavin Alford?
I think that's what. Just look up Trepang2 Gavin, and then he'll show up like Gavin Alfred. I don't know who that is. I mean, maybe he's me. Maybe he's my alter ego.
Oh my god!
You're right, dude. Trepang Studios used to have a few different members that are no longer working on the game. For example, a man going by Gavin Alford and a few of his unknown friends that were previously on the team, but they left after the first demo, and they were burnt out on the project.
Yeah, maybe it was before my time. I don't know. There was a previous Trepang2 team. The lore goes pretty deep.
That's so wild, knowing that it started as a solo project for you, and then you brought it to fruition, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these people worked on it and then left," and you're like,
"I guess
I'm gonna get him on LinkedIn."
Yeah, I mean, who is he? Let me find who he is.
They want that
technical director in Melbourne. All right.
But I guess if you want to look deep into the Trepang2 lore, just go on YouTube, type in Trepang2 Point Kid. There's this guy who does these really in-depth documentaries that, and it's mostly it's spot on, like what we intended to tell, I guess, but through really subtle means. So, yeah, check that out if you're into the lore.
100%.
Nice.
Another one from Pi, another $2. Thank you. Very, very curious in that they're getting to ask you these questions. It says, which is a really good last question, unless somebody else donates, which we will appreciate. The question is, what is the future of the Trepang series?
Oh, that's a difficult question to answer. So I guess the future for Trepang Studios is we're all taking a vacation right now because we need that. So
100%.
that's the future for now. But I mean, we're obviously not going to just abandon Trepang and never touch it again. So there will be more Trepang, whether it's an update or DLC or another game. There's going to be something for sure, unless we all, like, I don't know, never come back from vacation. We just enjoy it too much and vacation for the rest of our lives. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that.
You're artists. You've got more. You have the hunger.
I know, right? I mean, like, even if we could, I don't think we'd enjoy just, not working on video games. So we have to.
That's why we're all into it. We love the art, the process, the creation. That's why we're doing it.
Right? Yeah, you live for it, right? So
100%.
yeah,
100%. Alrighty then. So thank you for all your wonderful donations, guys. This is the end that I really should write a spiel to do, but I'm doing it off the cuff. What we have coming up, we have multiple streams and stuff. See, this is the stuff I should write down and have at hand, but I don't. I have an episode of Design Delve that's coming out a week from today, which is on the topic of game devs lying to you is good, actually, which should be interesting. Talking about how we, use smoke and mirrors and lie to our players for their benefit. So that's coming out in a week. So watch that. Watch all of our other wonderful shows, Fully Ramblomatic, Design Delve, Bite Sized, everything you can get your hands on. I want to say a big thank you to Wilson for coming on. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Wilson. It's a lot of fun.
The conversation went in directions I did not think they were going, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If I could go back in time and change it, I wouldn't.
Happy to talk about Ass Blessing anytime.
Just to experience it again. Wouldn't change anything. But yeah, thank you to all of our wonderful viewers and Eric in the background doing all the important stuff. And we will see you in a couple weeks with another episode, which hopefully Tina will return for. And we will see you then. So goodbye, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.